got it.
Okay, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I've been investigating the paranormal for over 20 years. It all started when I was a freshman in college, my very first week in college. I'm moving into my dorm. I had a paranormal experience, and my dorm room was haunted. And that happened. I changed dorms to my second semester, but I changed dorm rooms, still in the same dorm, and that dorm room was haunted. And so that began my whole just interest in the paranormal, and it just built, and I've been investigating since around 1998, 1997.
Wow. That is pretty awesome. Have you ever come into encounter that like scared you and you got the vibes that you shouldn't be there?
I've never had the experience of shouldn't be there. You know, I've never had an experience where I was so frightened that I felt unwelcome. You know, I've had lots of experiences, and whether they were residual or intelligent, I've had, a lot of each, but I've never felt like scared to the point of I need to flee.
Yeah.
Thank God. Cross my fingers it doesn't happen.
Right. So, tell us about your favorite place you have been so far.
Oh, goodness. Let's see. My favorite place that I have investigated would be Battleship, North Carolina, in Wilmington, North Carolina. That has by far been my favorite, I think.
Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. So Battleship, North Carolina is in Wilmington, and there is, and I meant to get this information before I came on tonight, and I totally forgot about it, but there has been a book where the guy who is like the keeper of the ship and all of his experiences has happened. He's written a book about it, like all his paranormal experiences. So a previous group that I was in, we got the opportunity to do a private tour, investigation of the group, of the boat. And he, after it was all shut down for tours and we got on the boat, I would say we got on the ship around 9:00 p.m. And he walked around, told us all the places, all the experience that he had as he was walking around turning the lights out. Afterwards, he brought us back up to the top. He said, the ship is yours. Do not knock on my door until 6 a.m. the next morning unless there's an emergency. He closed himself up. So we had the whole ship the whole night. And it was amazing. It was great atmosphere for ghost hunting. It was raining. It was thundering. It was lightning. Had all this energy there. And there came a time that we were like just exhausted. Like we had just been going up and down this boat for hours, and we were getting some good stuff, and we decided to kind of reset ourselves. So we were like in this one room, and we had turned our radios off. And we had turned our flashlights off, and we were just like, sitting there for a good 30 minutes. And all of a sudden we heard like hustle and bustle in the hallways, and we heard like down the stairs in the ship. And that was residual, because it was what I think was explained to me was it was kind of like there was no daylight savings time back when the ship was like a battleship. And it would have been when they would change shifts. So you heard all of the like Navymen, the shipmen, just like going down the hallways and going up and down the stairs and everything, which was awesome, especially because we were kind of taking a break from everything. And it was about, I don't know, like 4 a.m. And then as soon as we heard that, and we're kind of all like, do you listen to that? All of a sudden, all of our radios turned on, flashlights turned on, and someone said my name over the radio, like just start saying my name and two other investigators' name over the radio. And we're like, oh my God, like now we're getting beyond the residual. Like this is something intelligent that knows that we're here, like turning on the radios. And, we were pulling our KH meters and, pulling out our thermal cameras, and was just like, okay, we got to get everything back up again. That was amazing. I think that was the most I've ever experienced all at one time without any doubt,
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. So whenever you go into a place, what kind of equipment do you like to use?
Oh, wow. Well, we have, we have our tech people that have, all the thermal cameras and, that we need, and infrared cameras. And then we have, the basic, the K2 meters and MF detectors. We have digital recorder, spirit box. We go all the way to the basics, like, flashlights, which are really good and easy to use when you could just say, turn it on, turn it off. I mean, sometimes we'll go down to the basics of, just having a ball where, especially if you have kids that's, known to show or appear been seen, things like that kind of bring them to, communicate with you. So we use, balls, flashlights for that type of thing. But yeah, we go from spirit boxes to, laser grids and things like that. So we use it all across the board.
Awesome. So,
what is your favorite instrument to use when you go in to do a investigation? What is your most favorite one? If you could only bring one of the instruments, which one would it be?
Probably a digital recorder, honestly. I know there's a lot of fancy things out there, but I would take either spirit box or a digital recorder, and I'm good with that. If I had to go with just one piece of equipment, that's simple and basic, and you can kind of communicate and get what you need with proof, if you need that. So yeah, I would take that.
So, what is, how many places have you been so far?
Oh gosh. Wow, Jamie, let me think. I have investigated so many places. Some places I have investigated multiple times. I have done Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield. I've been there a couple of times. I've been to Eastern Penitentiary in Philadelphia a couple of times. I've been to Waverly Hills Sanatorium a couple of times. So I've been, I'll tell you where I haven't been that's on my bucket list for 2020. That's the Queen Mary. I really, really, really want to go there. And I want to do the Myrtle's Plantation. I really, really want to go there. So that's on my bucket list for 2020. And then also Stanley Hotel in Denver. I don't know if I'll get there in 2020, but in Colorado. But on my bucket list is the Queen Mary and the Myrtle's Plantation. Other than that, I think, I've been so many places, small, places that's well known to the, paranormal investigation world, especially in the U.S. And then, places that's local. But those are some places that still I haven't made it to that I want to make it to this year.
That's awesome.
So you were talking that your favorite piece of equipment would have to be the audio recorder. What kind of EVPs have you captured?
Oh gosh. I've gotten EVPs with some of the best things. Once I lived in a house. This is right after I graduated from college, and my roommates and I, and this is when I was like, never had gone on an investigation or anything, just had my own personal experiences, and I knew about the digital recorder, so I said, let's try this. Let's see what we could do here, which I've never done this since, and this has been over 20 years ago. But I've never done this in my house ever again, anywhere that I live. And someone came over and they said my name, and they said, "You're my wife. Monica, you're my wife."
Wow.
And we were like, what in the world? And so we kept, like, talking to it. And then it said, Monica, you're my wife, Zoe. And I'm just thinking, like, that's the weirdest thing. But by saying my name, that's, like, that really caught me. So that's something that was very clear. It was as clear as I'm talking to you today,
Right.
that we could hear that. Well, another EVP is when I was in Mansfield at Ohio State Reformatory. We were in the chapel, and we decided that we were going to sing the hymn, and we were singing Amazing Grace. And we were able to get this on EVP, but we also was able to get this. We heard it with our ears. We were singing Amazing Grace, and then we just stopped, mid point of the song, and then there was a voice that kept singing the song, like clear as day, and we were able to get that on digital recorder, and we could hear it with our own ears. So that's another case that was very clear. So that's why I love digital recorders, because that's really good proof. It's a picture, but a lot of times when you hear clear ones, that's awesome to share with people.
Oh, definitely. Whenever we've done some, I had one that freaked me out. I was asking if you wanted us to be here, and this is a place that we lived, and it said, "Get out."
Oh, no.
I started crying. I
Yeah.
went into the bedroom, told my fiancée Jamie about it, and it freaked me out.
Oh my gosh. But I don't know what I would do with myself if that happened. That's why I don't, like, after my first experience with that, like, I never do it where I live. Like, I just say prayers and be like, you know what? Like, I'm probably the scariest ghost hunter that there is, because I am like this big, strong, brave woman when I'm out there doing the job. But when it comes to my own house, my own place, like, I don't want none of that. And so for those that have lived in, places when they, and they've had to go through it for a very long time, like, they had nowhere else to go, and they've had, like, haunted houses that they've stayed in, I can't imagine it. Because at least in my dorm, like, I had options, like, I can go stay in my friend's room, or something like that. But
Definitely.
if that's just my house now, no.
I've dealt with them all my life.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, yeah. Just like these two little girls that are standing here now looking at me.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. That's a special type of human being. You're a special type of human being when you can. And you never know what you can deal with until you're dealing with it. And that's why I tell a lot of people, like, oh, my God, like, frighten me to death or whatever. But I think, working in the paranormal and having the experiences that I've had and helping the people that I've had, it's given me a totally different outlook on lots of things, like, like death and the afterlife and, being at peace and the soul living on. But still, like, living with it every day, having experiences like that, that takes a special type of person. So hats off to you, Jamie and James, for being able to stay at home and do that.
James, sometimes, I've scared James a couple of times. Where I went to the shower one time and I jumped and I screamed and he come running in there. Cause I felt a hand, it literally pulled my hair. I was like, turn shower off. Turn shower off. That's Dave.
Did it pull your hair, like, just to let you know it was there? Or did it pull your hair, like, tug at it? It hurt.
It hurt. And it takes a lot of hard pulling to actually hurt my head because I'm hard-headed.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, when it pulled it, my head went backwards and hit the shower. I was like, no, goodbye.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. I would have probably slid all over that shower trying to get out.
Oh, boy.
For the most part, spirits aren't usually the things that you have to worry about whenever you're going out places. Have you been to any place that might have been a little dangerous, that might have been like falling in or houses that may not have been safe that you went into?
I haven't had that experience, luckily. And, as investigators, that's the first thing that we got to think. Like, sometimes we have to worry about the living or, things like that more than we have to worry about the dead. I would say that right now what I deal with is I used to be part of an investigation team who kind of dismantled. And then I kind of concentrated on, being a mom, and, my kids were smaller, and now they're older. So I started up my Greensboro Paranormal group. And it's, I have the core group that we can kind of investigate and be there for others. And then we have those that we're just there for them for, support, and that needs to tell their stories and have somewhere where they can be heard. And a lot of times, a lot of people will join the group and they're ready to, the meetup part of the group, and they just want to go investigate. And I have to kind of let them know, we can't just take anybody into a venue or home, and you got to protect the people that, are, you can't just be like, okay, here I am at 2:00 in the morning with strangers, because you have to protect yourself and the people that you're responsible for, that you are investigating with and investigating for. But luckily, no, I haven't had any really creepy, dangerous places that, other than when I went to Easton Penitentiary and was attacked by bats. I think that's the scariest, the most that I've dealt with.
Definitely. So, do you do more residential or more of the other locations more?
It really does depend. I think I've probably done it 50-50, to be honest with you. I've done a lot of residents, but I've done a lot of, fire stations call us, businesses, especially a lot of businesses that are downtown and really old buildings, that may be law firms or things like that, or, that bars or pubs or restaurants, things like that. So I've done it probably 50-50, going out to Waverly or Eastern Ohio, State Reformatory. That was all basically for just my own personal want to go and investigate those places. But on just a regular basis of who called me for help, it's probably 50-50.
Okay. So whenever you do go to residential, how much research do you do on the history of the house, the history of the people that live there?
Oh, I try to do as much as I can. I try to spend more time knowing as much as I can about the property before I even go in there, especially when we usually, meet with the family or whoever that's calling on us to assist, try to find out what they've been experiencing, take that information, and then try to find out the history of the home and who's lived there, what could, if they're seeing someone, who that could be, or, what was there before this property. So, yeah, I try to do a lot. It's so important to do the history of the location because it can explain a lot of it away, even scientifically if that's what we're debunking. So I do a lot with the history part. And to me, that's just as fun as, because it's like a puzzle, and you're putting it all together. So, yeah, a lot of history.
Definitely. So, I'm going to go. This is a question that I've asked quite a few people, and I've gotten a couple different answers on it. It's got to do with, what do you think ghosts are? There's this theory where, let's see if I can say this right. Sometimes I mess it up. Time is relative and in a continuous loop. Everything repeats itself. So, is the theory. Some theories are that ghosts are from the future and or past, and the reason why we're able to see them is because there's a not a split in time, but a time slip, where they might be able to see us, we might be able to see them. Or do you think that it's that along with people who have passed over?
I think it's both, to be honest with you. I think it's people that have passed over that can be visits. And I don't feel like every ghost that you may see, is, a soul that's stuck here on this plane. And so I do believe that, and I feel like a lot of times the visits are from like loved ones or, people that haven't crossed over, but would like to come and let you know that they're watching over you or they're present. But I don't believe they stay. And then I do feel like you have souls that are stuck here that have not crossed over, has not left, that some not even aware that they may have passed on and may look at us as a ghost, So
Yeah.
that's what I feel, that it's both.
Okay. So I had a question and I forgot it. Because it was a continuous. Okay. Do you think that there's also poltergeist activity which is caused by the person but unbeknownst to them? Do you think that have you ever been to a location where the person's actually causing the poltergeist activity without realizing it?
That it's him? No, I've never experienced it. I never had an investigation where it was a poltergeist activity. I've done research on it. I do believe that, we have that energy, especially, younger, kids that are going through puberty and hormonal changes and things like that. I do feel with the energy that we have, if we could be, telepathic, we could definitely at that time and stage in our lives, cause poltergeist. So, but no, I've never had that experience and probably will have it now that you brought it up. Fingers crossed, but yeah, I haven't had that experience. Have you ever had that experience or witnessed that?
Me personally, no.
Wait, what?
No.
Sorry, I zoned out.
Poltergeist experiences, dealt with an investigation involving the poltergeist experience. And I have not.
Like what happened down yonder to me?
No, like whenever a person's psychically causing it themselves but not knowing it.
Yeah. Vera, my mother. I have. A older gentleman died. It was a long time ago before she moved out from the place that she was staying.
Mm-hmm.
And none of it was known, but I personally knew him. He was nice, sweet, and he would always react to her, nobody else. And there was this other thing. I don't like saying its name, but it has taken over my mother. It's almost killed her.
Oh, wow.
Because of her, because she got real bad depressed and she was going mentally insane from that spirit.
That energy. And that's, and that's so real, and I think the difference in what your mom was going through with the gentleman that had stayed in the house before is that it was actually a spirit that was interacting with just her. But with the poltergeist, it would be there's no spirit. It's just you. You're creating the movement. You're creating the noises. You're creating the things that are moving. It's all you're mentally doing that. But it's, with your mom, is that something she's going through now, or is she's kind of gotten
that was back when I was about 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that she got past it. And that's a real thing, that's a real thing where you can, that it can attach itself, bad energy can attach itself to someone. It can cause, havoc in a home or with your health or your family. And, I mean, that's a real thing. And, when if you believe in good, then what's opposite of that? And, you got to stay protected and prayed up and just be wise with your interactions that you have. And I think, with what we do and, the experiences that we have and the stories that we hear, it opens our mind. And I feel like, ignorance is bliss. When you are aware of things, then you can, when something is happening to someone, you're not like you're crossing out all the possibilities. You're not just like, oh, they're just being mean. Oh, they're just on drugs. Oh, they're just, idiots. Oh, they're just, going through midlife crisis. Like, when we go through the things that, we've seen or experienced or heard about, it makes you really like, say, I wonder if it could be this. Where have they gone? When did it start happening? Changes start happening. So, there's a lot of people that, think the things that we do and experiences that we have and we go out and search for and investigate is really crazy. But I think being so open to this world and these experiences that are real, it allows us to, like, save a lot of people and a lot of families and a lot of health crises, because some things are not good. It's sometimes really bad attachments that can cause a lot of grief to people. And it just means a little bit of prayer maybe, or moving, or, or reevaluating like who you have around you. So, I think what we're doing is a good thing.
Yes. I don't know what to ask. Tell us about some of the other places you've been.
Gosh, let me think. Well, I'll tell you about a few other experiences that I've had that's been kind of crazy.
Okay.
Because I've had so many places I've been, but not everywhere did I have really experiences. I could tell you when I used to work, and this was another one of the experiences that I had that caused me to begin investigating. I used to work at a prison in North Carolina. It was a maximum security women's prison. And when I first started working at the prison, I worked in the when you first come into prison before you're like classified, so you have everybody in there together, like from like, white collar crimes to murderers. You're all were in there together. And It's called reception, and they're like quads, like 4 quads that maybe have 25 to 30 women in each quad with a bunch of bunk beds. And, throughout the day, when it's time to change shifts, you would have to, no matter what they were doing, they had to go in their assigned quad, and get on the bed so you could do count, prepare for the next shift. So this particular night, my quad was just being ornery. Like, they were just like elementary kids. They were just not listening. And they were like all to the window, and I went in there like, what is happening? Like, why are you guys not listening tonight? And they were right next door was a long-termers dorm, and long-termers are like, inmates that used to be on death row and got off, but are never going to get out, or that was their sentence in the beginning. Like, they're there for forever.
Right.
And so, but they had the nicest dorm. Like, it was like a dorm. It was like one bed to a room, and the corner rooms had 2 beds. You had a roommate. And so they were looking out the window, and it was an inmate, and then the very next dorm was looking back, at them in the window. And so I radioed to the officer in that dorm, like, you have an inmate that's up, shouldn't be up in the window, it's causing chaos over here. Like, can you just go to that room and just like get her, And so we are, looking, and I'm talking the officer to which window it is so she can figure out which room it is that she needs to go to. And so I see her come, from my dorm that I'm in. I see her go to the room, open the door, and the inmate that's at the window turns around and she looks at her, and then she steps to the side, and the officer comes to the window, and then she just like shrugs her shoulders. She goes back out of the room. She calls me back on the radio. She says, the inmate is sleeping. As soon as she had walked out of the room, the inmate that was in the window stepped back in the window and turned back and looked at us. So this whole
Wow.
time, she never saw this inmate, and this inmate was a ghost this whole time. Scared me to death. Like, that makes sense. And I think I may have been working at the prison maybe 4 or 5 months at this time, but never, like, never was it registering with me about, I wasn't even thinking ghost or any. She was like, she looked just like me or you or any other inmate there. Like, she was so solid. Like, and it was intelligent. Like, she knew we were looking at her, and she was looking at us, and she saw the officer come in, and she moved to the side. Just scared me to death. And that's when I'm like, from the rest of the time that I worked there, when I would get off, sometimes just if count was off a little bit, and like maybe all the officers weren't walking at the same time, it was like dark and late, I was like be racing to the to the lights where everybody else was. But that's one experience that I've had.
Wow.
That was what caused me to be like, oh yeah, like it's something really out there.
So, I'm certain there's been probably a lot of deaths at the prison. Do you think that whenever someone's killed horribly, that their spirit stays behind to try to tell its story?
I don't know if that is it. I think there is a lot of people that was at the prison that spent basically a lifetime there. There are, people that have been there for such a long time. After a few months and I came out of reception, I was assigned to the long-termers dorm, and that's where I worked for years. And I found that you find these people, they form families. Like, they will have mom and dad and grandma and granddad and uncles and aunts and cousins. Like, they'll form their family there, and that's what they call each other. And, I mean, you have some that's been there since they were in their 30s, and then they're in their, 80s. And, like, some if I didn't see them all day, I was like, I got to go check on them, make sure she's okay. Because, as an officer, they passed the judge and the jury part. Now I'm just maintaining custody and security of the inmate. So you want to make sure they're okay, but, and they were the best ones, the long-termers, because they didn't do a lot of crimes. They just did one really bad one most of the time,
Right.
And so they were the most obedient, to be honest with you. But I think it's just that's where their home have been. A lot of times they spent more years in prison than they spent on the outside, for whatever reason, when they, committed their crime and got sentenced and came there and formed their families in prison. So I think maybe when they do pass on, that they're home. They're just staying where they, all they really remember or know or spent most time.
Definitely. So did you ever have inmate come up to you and say that they've seen something that shouldn't be there?
No. After that particular night, after that particular night with the receptional inmates that saw all that, we try to kind of like not talk about it because you didn't want them to get it all passed around and get all the other inmates scared and talking about it. Right. But I'll tell you, when I moved over to the long-termers dorm, and every hour you have to go make rounds and you have to go check in each room. And when you check in the rooms, you don't open the door. You just put your flashlight in the window and the door, and you peep and you make sure everything is good, and I'm telling you, when I used to have to do those rounds in that particular dorm, after I had saw what I'd seen, that was probably the quickest round. I'm just so glad nothing ever happened wrong, because they'd probably be like, Foskey, why didn't you see that? Because I was probably half looking for what I should have been looking for.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but not a lot of people talked about, we really, it would have been kind of like a big deal if we made a big issue over it. So, and I was I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to hear about it. I didn't want to talk to them about what else they seen.
Right.
It's just in the back of my mind, oh, now I've got to find out more,
Definitely. So besides that one, have you seen any other full-body apparitions?
Back to where I was telling you my first week of college when I was a freshman, my roommate, she lived about 25 minutes in the next city from where we went to school. And so she had a dorm, but she didn't stay in it. She had a dorm room, but she didn't stay in it most of the time. So, like, I moved in college on Sunday, and that Friday, she had clothes in her room, and she had set up her side of the room, but I had not met her yet. And, back then it was like, I'm 47. Back then there was no Facebook and all that stuff. So you can get to know your roommate before. So I was like, anxious about like finally meeting her. So this particular night, it was a Friday night and there was a little gym party. And like girls that I had met during orientation, they lived in the same dorm, but they lived on the opposite side. So I was in my room getting showered and getting dressed. And so I remember I had on my jeans, and I was ironing my T-shirt to put on so I can go back to my friend's room so we can all go to the party together. And so my side of the room, like getting dressed, my back was to the door, and my roommate's side was on the side where the door was. And so when I was ironing my shirt with my back to the door, a girl came in the room. And I was like, oh, there's my roommate,
Right.
So the girl came in the room, and I could see all this through my peripheral because I didn't say anything. She didn't say anything to me yet. I was all nervous. And so I was like, I'm just going to wait till she says something to me. So she came in the room. She went on my roommate's side of the room. She went to my roommate's desk. She did something to the desk. She looked out the window, and on the outside of her window was this really big cemetery, which is crazy. But so I never had the curtains back. But she went to the window. She kind of looked out the window. She went back to the desk. And I could see all this stuff while I'm ironing, like on my peripheral. And I'm seeing this, and I'm like, is she going to say something to me? Is she nice? I'm thinking. So she went back to the desk, and she did something, and then she went to the bed, and she sat on the bed, like facing me, and she sat on the bed, and I was like, oh, she's going to talk to me. So when I saw her sit on the bed, I turned around to like acknowledge her, and she disappeared right before my eyes. I was frightened. Only thing, I just yanked the cord out of the socket for the iron, and I grabbed my shirt. I like ran out of there. I was like so frightened, and I was just like, oh my God, you guys, like, I saw a ghost in my room. Like, I don't know who she was. I don't know if that was intelligent either. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because when I turned around, she just disappeared, and she never acknowledged me or anything. So I don't know if that was intelligent. But the next semester, I changed rooms. I moved to my friends. They had a roommate move out, and I moved into their room. And I want to say about a couple of months into the second semester, the guy, I was dating a guy, and I was waiting for him to come and pick me up, and like everybody else in my suite were like out for the night, and I was waiting for him to come to pick me up, and I was like, there was like a little circle in front of like you would drive around where my dorm was, and so I was just like peeping out the window waiting for him to like, show up, because back then too, there were like, everybody didn't have cell phones. And so I'm staring at the window, and you know how you stare at the window for a minute and you can see your reflection? So I'm just staring at the window, just waiting for him, and I didn't catch my reflection, and right behind me is a girl. And as soon as I saw her, she was reaching out to touch me at the same time. And I jumped, and I turned around like so quick, and I know it may have lasted, it was so quick. It may have been like 3 seconds, 2-3 seconds, but it felt like 30 seconds. And she was looking at me, and I was looking at her, and she just disappeared. And I just ran out of my room. Everybody that I like knew enough to like, sit in the room with, nobody was in their room, like nobody. And so I had to go back into my suite, and I opened up the door to the like outside, and I had my door in my bedroom open to my dorm room, and I just was thinking like please let him hurry up, like please let him hurry up. And at this time he was pledging a fraternity, and my hall phone rung after like 30-45 minutes, and it was because we didn't have room phones either. Right. And he was like, hey, I'm stuck with everything I have to do. There's no way we're going to be able to hang out the night. And the only thing I could think was like, I'm going to have to stay in this room by myself. And I remember having, the door to the outside open, the door to my room open, all the lights on, the TV on. I finally fell asleep. I don't know when I fell asleep, but I remember when I opened my eyes, it was light outside, and I went walking, because I didn't have a car. I went walking to his apartment that was maybe like 1.5 miles, 2 miles from campus. I just got up and started walking like, okay, it's daytime. I'm walking to his house, and I can count on my hands how many times I stayed after that in that dorm period. I moved to a whole different dorm after, and I never saw anything else on that campus after then. But those were the only times I saw solid apparitions, and that was in that dorm, those 2 semesters, and when I worked at the prison.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was enough. If I never see any more again, I know they're real.
Oh, definitely. It's like I've got a full body apparition story. I know a lot of people may not realize it, but whenever it happens. But with me, I was with a few people, and we went to this supposed haunted tunnel, and we all walked in there, and it's just a tunnel that has graffiti, and the train tracks were all taken out, so it's just a tunnel. We walked in, and as we was walking out, I was like to one of my friends, hey, let's stay back, let's play a joke on our other friends that were there. And the other ones walked out and was walking to this path that has like huge hills on either side of it, all the way to the car. So there was no way that you wouldn't be able to see anybody not on the path. We walked out, and because we waited for like 10 minutes for them to come back and say, hey, where are you at? But they never came back. It was about halfway down the path when I saw a little boy poke its head out around a bush and go back inside. Well, we walked to the bush. I'm like, okay, it's not there. And then about, 20 feet further as we was walking, one of our friends popped out and fell to the ground, because she was trying to scare us. So, it didn't work out, but I'm thinking, where's that little boy that was with us that was poked its head out from around the corner? And we got all the way back to the car, and he was there with the other members, our other friends, and we're like, was you back by the tunnel? He's like, no. So I had seen a full body apparition of a little boy poke its head around the corner, and I can't explain it.
And it was just as clear as, it wasn't even like a ghost, it was like a real person.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
and when you have that type of experience, you never forget it, Like, it's so different than, seeing a shadow person or hearing something. But when you see that full body apparition, it just, take you to a whole nother level of believing.
It really does. And unless you have your own experience like that, ain't nobody going to believe it.
Never.
Let's see, you did EVPs with audio. Have you ever caught anything on video?
Let me see. We have caught things on video before. Some of the things that we've caught on video, glowing orbs of light. We've caught that. We've seen some shadow figures that we've caught on video before. We caught that a really good shadow figure that we caught at McCool's Pub here in Greensboro one time. Actually, I went back there just this past weekend. But we didn't do an investigation then. But I'll hope to get back in there again. But in the ladies' room, we had cameras in there, and we caught a shadow person there. Let me think of other videos that we may have caught. No, way more. Lots of personal experiences. Lots of like EVPs that we've caught. There's been a time that I was doing an investigation and I showed up after everyone else, so just a few minutes, and I was walking into the home, and like they had an older part of the home and a newer part of the home, and they had this little breezeway that they had built that you walk from the older part of the home to the newer part. So, but you can enter in through that little connected part and then go either way. So I was coming into the home that way, and there was like windows on both sides. And when I walked in, I see this girl, or she seemed young, and she was just dancing outside the window, like in circles. Like she had on a white dress, and she was just like dancing around. And I went in her room like, who is that out there dancing? Like who? And this is the first time we ever had went to this home before. And they were like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then we asked the owner, the husband, and he was like, oh, we see her all the time. She does the same thing. She's always dancing. So I've seen that before. So many things I've experienced that were not on camera, or right. In the middle of like setting up, we see something or we hear something, and then Definitely. You put your camera on and you don't get as much. But I think what I've learned over the years of investigating is that, I mean, it's now where, before, like, you'll go somewhere and you'll, get it, for that day, through that night, and you didn't get anything. And I think now I've decided to spend more time, like, not just one day or one night, but, like, really having access to it when we can for multiple days, because when you have someone that has so much experience, and then when we go there for just a limited amount of time and we don't get anything that day, it's just so much rewarding when we could stay a little bit longer and have it for like 2 days, and then, we could be there all day for 2 days and then have more time to kind of gather evidence. So I think that may be some of the reasons why, but I've had lots of experience. We have had videos of, just the norm, but nothing like that we would sit in and be like, look what I got, Yeah. Hadn't had that.
So how long is the longest period of time that you did stay at a location?
Oh, well, I've stayed at a location where I've been there came on Friday to Sunday. Like, the family left, and they gave us the whole weekend to be there. And that's very helpful. I had one home where the wife had passed away, like the husband, the wife, the daughter lived down the street and with her husband, and the mother had passed away of cancer. She didn't want to go through treatment and chemo, and she was in like stage 4. It was terminal. She just wanted to be home, and so she stayed at home. And what we were able to get there was like amazing. This was actually the home where we saw the girl turning. I saw the girl turning around in the circles, dancing outside. The wife had really, really long hair, and she used to pin her hair up with these Barbie pins. And so the husband used to say towards the end, when she didn't have the energy to talk, she would just just move her bobby pins around and make like hearts and and say I love you and things like that from her hair. And so we put all these bobby pins in the room and was here you are, You can, do whatever you want to say to your daughter or your husband. Like, you could just do it with the bobby pins, and we put cameras in there, and camera didn't pick up anything. We went in there, and we saw a heart shape on the bed, but the camera had turned off for some reason. We had no reason. Don't know how the camera turned off. Nothing. There was an orb right before the camera turned off, and then the camera turned off. And so when we went in the room and saw the heart shape that was made on the bed, we didn't have that on camera. But that was a house that I was so glad that, because the first night I saw the girl dancing, the kettle on the stove went off that morning, and the husband had told us that since his wife had died, like, she makes him coffee. That's what she would say all the time, that she makes him coffee. And that morning we got up and we woke up from the kettle going off. We were like, what is that noise? And the kettle was going off, and there was no, like, burner that had been on or anything. Like, there was water in the kettle, but it was warm and it was going off. And I didn't even know people still use kettles like that.
All right.
But that was a home that we were there for Friday to Sunday, and I want to have that opportunity going forward when we can. It makes a big difference in the investigation and being able to give, people what they're looking for if there's something there.
Definitely. So, I've had different responses on this next question, but I want to know your response with Ouija boards. A lot of people say that it's just a piece of cardboard, ain't nothing to it. And then others, say, oh, it's an invitation for spirits to come in, demons to come in and just haunt the place. It opens portals. What's your thoughts on that?
Okay. I have, honestly, I played with Ouija boards maybe twice, 2-3 times. The time that I said that that I got the EVP of someone telling me that I was their wife Zoe on an EVP, my roommate said, I have a Ouija board, let's try to talk to the person that's saying this through the Ouija board. And the person came on and said through that Ouija board, and I want to say this was the first time I played with a Ouija board. Nope, this is the second time. Said that they were my husband. I was their wife, Zoe, and that his mother killed his wife and he killed his mother, and that his wife died the day before my birthday.
Wow.
And that was so after that, I played with one since. And then when I was in college and I was in summer school, I had a suite mate who, God, I feel like I got crazy stories about everything. I had a suite mate. We were just playing, and we had a makeshift Ouija board. Like, we had the little thing that you put your hands on. It was the one that came with it, but we didn't have the board. So we made the board with a dry erase board. It was her dry erase board. And we just played it for a little while, and then we all forgot about it. And she didn't, we were like, erase all those letters off and stuff, like, don't play it, we're done, you don't play it by yourself, leave it alone. And she kept playing with it, and she somehow, she felt like she entered in a relationship with the spirit that she met off the board. And she spent her whole summer in this relationship with whatever it was that she felt like she met off the board. She talked about this person like it was a real relationship. She went to her room and went to bed early and didn't want people coming in her room or disturbing her, because it would tell her that it would come to her when she was sleeping and would touch her and kiss her. So it wanted her to go to bed a certain time. It was really weird. And
Wow.
then after about a month, it told her that it had to go because the devil was getting upset. So it was going to leave and never come back, and she was devastated. And like a real boyfriend had broken up with her. My thing is with the Ouija board is that I just don't feel like it's good energy.
Right.
And, but I think that's the same thing as doing an EVP. And we kind of had this at a meeting that I went to this past week where people was asking, isn't the same thing as, turning on your digital recorder and saying, and conjuring up a conversation with someone? Isn't it the same thing as that's kind of like opening up a portal too? And, to be honest, it really is.
Right.
But to me, I just feel like the experiences that I've had with the Ouija board, I didn't see anything good come out of it. And so I don't have anything against people that wisely use it if you use it for the right reasons. But I just kind of steer away from it.
Right.
So,
how about you guys? What do you guys think about the Ouija board?
I used to play with them all the time when I was younger. I used to love them.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
But when you think about it and some of the experiences that you've had since you were younger, do you think it could have been from, and I'm just asking, do you think it could have been from some of those spirits that may have been, invited from the board that didn't go away?
Indeed I do. There was a portal open at my grandparents' house. They never knew of it. But there was a portal open at my grandparents' house that I had opened and left open.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did you intentionally leave it open?
I did when I was younger.
Right.
I loved stuff like that. I don't know how to explain it. I was what's that word? Satanist?
Yeah.
When I was younger?
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you were getting, do you feel like they all were bad or some were good or there was just a little bit of everything?
Most of them I got was evil.
Yeah. And I just feel that way. I just feel like they could tell you what you want to know because they know. You know what I'm saying? I think the devil comes in different disguises, and I just, and like I said, not trying to. I contradict myself when I say that I love digital recorders and I love trying to communicate that way because I feel like you could, with all of it, it's the same thing, like anytime that you're, asking something to, make itself known and to communicate with you, you could be conjuring up something and it all doesn't mean it's good. It can pretend to be whatever you want it to be. But I don't know. I'm just really scared of the Ouija board.
Yeah. Me personally, I've never had any experiences with the Ouija board, but I do believe that they're not good, that they do open portals, and if you don't close them, then bad things will happen.
Right.
See, thing is, when I opened that portal, I'm the one that closed it. I closed it finally.
How long did you keep it open?
I was 17, 18 years old when I closed it. And I had it open since I was 13.
Oh, for a long time, so.
Oh, yeah.
It was a lot going on at your grandparents' house.
Oh, yeah, and they would think that I'm crazy and I'll be telling them all this stuff. They'd be like, "You're crazy!" No, grandparents, why don't you come stay in my room a night or two? You'll be jumping out of your skin, leaving the bedroom and saying this place is haunted and making another hole through the wall.
Well, it's probably good that it contained itself just to your bedroom, Not for you, but, but for them, that it wasn't something that just, made itself known throughout the home and, attached itself to anything. Now, I wouldn't have, if I had, experience like that, or if during an investigation I ran into something like that. And you see that a lot now in some TV shows where you'll have investigators that will start, dealing with, demons or, other beings that never took on human form. And I just don't think that's something that everyday person knows how to handle. And to me, I can investigate all day long, but if I feel there's something that's not, and I really don't feel like any of us are experts, to be honest with you, but when it's something that I don't have experience with, when it seems a little bit different than what I'm used to, I don't have any problem passing on and say, hey, you may need to contact your church, or you may need to contact, someone else, because I'm not trying to deal with something that's way over my head.
Right.
Most definitely. It's looking like we're at the end of the hour.
It's been a pleasure, Jamie and James. Absolutely, it has.
It definitely has.
It's been an awesome pleasure having you on our show tonight.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and I hope to talk to you again soon, and you guys keep doing what you're doing, and I will listen into your marathon, and good luck with the marathon, and being able to keep your radio show and your website and everything going.
Awesome.
Thank you.
If you want to throw out like a way to maybe contact you, or your social media or website or anything like that, right now would probably be a good time.
Oh, absolutely. You can find me on Instagram. It's NC Go Steva. That's North Carolina for NC. NC Go Steva. On Twitter, same handle, NC Go Steva. Greensboro Paranormal. You can find us at Greensboro Paranormal Group Meetup. And so, follow me on Twitter, on Instagram. I really was not in social media, so I'm really just getting started. So definitely, follow me or DM me, or I'll follow you back.
Awesome. Thank you for being on the show.
Okay. You're very welcome. You have a good night.
You too.
You too.
Okay.
All right, and